Hi, welcome to Blue Box Rocks, a Doctor Who rewatch show. My name is Aaron. I've been a Doctor Who fan for about 11-ish years, maybe 12, I'm not sure. I first obviously got started during the new Doctor Who era. Really about the border between 10th and 11th is when I started watching, but I started watching older episodes first. So my first Doctor, at least in the modern era, was the Ninth Doctor. And as I've watched more and more, I am remembering that I actually watched some on public television in the United States back in, must have been the 80s or 90s, where I watched the Seventh Doctor. So he was actually my first Doctor, and he's still one of my favorites after watching an awful lot of episodes. But admittedly, I haven't seen every episode, and so a lot of this is going to be brand new to me as I watch to review it for this show. So it'll be kind of fun. But what we're going to get started with is Orphan 55. It is currently rated the very lowest episode on a popular rating site. It is set at about 4 out of 10 at the moment. Sometimes it jumps up to 4.1. I've not seen it go any lower than 4, but currently it is at 4.0. What I'm going to do is go over the episode, give you my measured score, and see how it compares to what's been rated before. So, the hook of the show is we have, let's see, I believe it's Graham. Yes. No, actually, okay. The gang starts off. They're cleaning up some kind of alien spooge material, some sort, apparently from mating. And so that's just a fantastic way to start an episode of what could be called a family, or not quite a kids show, but something along those lines. But right in the middle of cleaning, Graham bursts in. He won tickets to this resort, but the catch of it is, once you put these pieces of the winning tickets together, it automatically teleports you to this resort within like 10 seconds. So that removes the TARDIS from any kind of usage. You can't use it for, well, I don't understand one thing right off the bat. In some episodes, the TARDIS is used for translating, and so if people speak different languages, then the TARDIS will act as kind of a universal translator of sorts. So when the TARDIS isn't there, does everybody just speak English, even like a millennia apart from modern day? That's one of the biggest plot holes. But that exists in all of sci-fi. The fact that languages just don't kind of don't matter. So, but anyhow, we have no TARDIS. We have no ability to just leave this dangerous situation. So we have to solve the problems of this site in order to get out of here. And so right after we land, Ryan decides to get something out of a vending machine, and he meets Bella with a really cool meet cute, possibly the best little scene of the entire episode, where he essentially gets a computer virus of sorts, and so does Bella. And the cure for the computer virus, it's fun. It's a meet cute. It's better than almost any other part of this episode. But then shortly after that, we meet the annoying loud pensioner, who I can't remember her name, to be honest, and I didn't bother to look it up. But she just spends the whole episode going, Benny, Benny, and it's really terrible. And then we also meet a green-haired sort of Wesley Crusher. Wesley Crusher, or that kind of character trope, is the kid that knows it all. He is able to fix any problem in the show that requires fixing. He is the Deus Ex Machina in human form, or alien form in this case, I guess. I don't know if the green hair means he's an alien, or if him and his dad just have an interesting style motif, because yes, his dad shares the same hairstyle that he does. But then along the way, we also meet what the person that I call the villain of the show, Mrs. Yawn. Mrs. Yawn runs the site. She runs the resort. She owns the resort. She's just kind of there. She's not a very interesting character. They don't build her up. They don't write her very well. They don't give her very much interesting to do for being the boss of the site. But she is in charge of terraforming. Well, she owns the site. She is using the resort as kind of an ulterior motive to terraform this entire planet. During the course of things, in about half an hour, you find out that this planet is planet Earth. And Orphan 55 is just known as an orphan world, which has been, completely trashed. And so humans have returned to Earth without realizing it. And there's some bad guys that are trying to invade the base and tear it apart. The bad guys are known as dregs, and you find out that we're actually in Russia. So the bad guys are Russians, which is, mildly interesting. They don't promote this fact very much, except to the fact that, oh, hey, we're in Russia, and that's, mildly cool. The fact that, our planet is going to get trashed and turn into this. But there's no mention of the fact that these are human beings, or, very little. It's just, oh, these are scary aliens that just happen to be from Russia. But they're just kind of barely mentioned. It bothers me. But anyhow, I'm kind of going down my list of information. What happens throughout the course of the episode is a ton of these vacationers die. But they almost all die off screen. Well, in fact, they all die off screen. Where they're, in most of the cases, they're just like a little dot on a monitor that kind of goes boop, and they're gone, or they're turned red. And that is it. That is the extent of it. Also, the character that I forgot to mention altogether is Hyphen. Hyphen is spelled hyphen with a 3 instead of an E. At least we think that's where the 3 goes. All the literature that I've been able to read says that that's where it goes. That's the most interesting thing about her, except for her costume. She is dressed just like Neelix from Star Trek Voyager from the 90s, except just a cheaper version of it, which kind of fits with this series. There's a lot of Star Trek-y type things that are just cheaper versions of it. Of course, Star Trek has stolen many, many things from Doctor Who over the years, including the Borg, which are really just kind of somewhere in between Cybermen and Daleks, but I digress. So she is just kind of the most sensible character. Not sensible. The most herself character in the entire episode. I don't know how else to put it. She's very genuine. Everybody else seems to have either an ulterior motive or, is just running around not really doing much of anything. She's just trying to do her job. She has a job to do. I have to keep people out of this room. She at least tries to do it. She doesn't do a very good job of that. And unfortunately, she just dies kind of unceremoniously. She is just cannon fodder. I feel like, just like every character in this episode, she deserved more to do, better lines, just a more interesting whatever. So that's essentially the episode. We get to the end. The bad guys, the dregs, are getting ready to invade the resort. They leave the two antagonists of sorts, Mrs. Bland and Bella, behind to fight them off. And they get teleported to the TARDIS, and they make absolutely no efforts to go back and rescue anybody. So that's the episode. So let's go back and actually rate the different parts of this episode. The series credits. They're fine. I would consider these credits to be the worst of the second era of Doctor Who. I call the second era New Who, from about 2005, 2006 on to the present. That said, I find the credits more interesting than, Star Trek Discoveries, at least in the first season. I haven't seen beyond that. And a lot of other sci-fi shows, it's mildly interesting. It's basically, it's like a sped up lava lamp with one of those mirror image things that they cut down the middle of the screen, kind of like from a lot of 1970s music videos. So it's okay. What did I give it? I gave it a 6 out of 10. The basic plot, they're kind of stealing from a 34-year-old movie, that being Aliens, in which you have colonists that come in, terraform a planet, and then the bad guys that are already living there are trying to invade the base. The flip that it's actually Earth, that's been done before too. And also the flip that it's a resort, that I don't know if it's been done before. That I actually kind of liked. And really, a 34-year-old movie that remains popular in, the zeitgeist of sci-fi. Um, I consider it an homage at this point. Yeah, we should be allowed to steal, borrow from older movies. The fact that there's the internet and people have longer memory spans than they used to. Uh, you know, Going off track a little bit. In the 30s, 40s, people would remake, or companies would remake movies all the time. There were two different versions of the Maltese Falcon before the most famous version came out. And that happened an awful lot. So, really, it's okay to steal, borrow. I just wish that they had done a little bit better with it. I give it a 6 out of 10. Characters. There's only a couple memorable ones. Hyphen, she's just doing her job and she dies, and she, except for her costume, she's barely memorable at all. Bella is actively trying to kill everybody. I don't know, no question. She is actively trying to at least sabotage this facility, and by doing so, she's going to kill everybody. It's her fault that everybody is dead. Who is dead? And it's also Mrs. Bland's fault because, she's the one who decided to put a resort on a populated part of this huge planet. She could have done it at one of the poles. It wouldn't have made any difference at all. But she decided to do it here. And so, even with that, and also the Benny lady, nobody's really of interest. I give them a 4 out of 10. Creature of the Week. The dregs are just played up for scares. There's no depth to them at all. And the fact that they're freaking Russians, that's cool, but they don't do anything with it at all. In any other writer's hands that has ever written for Doctor Who, for the most part, I should say, because there are some terrible episodes out there, but in other hands, this could have been a fantastic episode and fantastic creatures. But no, I give it a 2 out of 10. Planets, or locales. We're on Earth. It's one of those gravel pits just outside of Wales. That's the shooting location, I'm sure. And that amphitheater, I think it's in Spain, or it's out of country, but it's just like, it feels like a parking garage for all the sites that they could have chosen. It's just really boring. I give it a 1 out of 10. Costumes. You have off the rack military wear. You have not Neelix, Hyphen, wearing whatever the heck she's wearing or they're wearing. And then you have the toothy Russians that have no real costumes except for their, them. I give it a 3 out of 10. The plot high and low points. The antagonist's outcome, they sacrifice themselves. That's always kind of a good thing in Doctor Who, but it's also really overused. But, I guess that's okay. The line that is given, not by Graham, by Ryan, that's right, where he goes, Doctor Who. I love that. That was not played up enough. I love it when they work Doctor Who into an episode. Even though it takes me out of the episode a little bit, I still love it every single time. I don't care. But really, those are like the only good points. And also, at the end, they make no effort to go back. They don't even try to go back to rescue Bella and her mom. Oh, that's another thing. I forgot. Bella's mom is Mrs. Bland. And that is completely unnecessary. They don't do anything with that fact, just like all the other wasted plot points and little tidbits in this episode. They don't do anything with it, except make it out that Mrs. Bland is a deadbeat mom. But anyhow, all of that, 4 out of 10. The Doctor in action, the Doctor doesn't act. She acts, but she reacts pretty much the whole episode. She's essentially a companion in her own episode. She feels like, about midway through the very first season of Classic Who, where the companions basically had all the lines, did all the actions while the Doctor was out of action. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and there were, again, missed opportunities. 1 out of 10. I think the Doctor did terrible in this episode. I think she was acted very well. Jodie Whittaker is fantastic for the mannerisms and everything else. She is just not given anything, enough cool stuff to do, enough cool lines, enough cool, just 1 out of 10. Story resolution, I love a good eco message because the world is in a terrible spot right now. So even heavy-handed stuff, I really like a good eco message. This is not a good eco message. It's terrible. It just kind of sits there like a wet piece of paper. I give it a 3 out of 10. The music, it served the story. It was okay. It doesn't stand out, but that's kind of, I feel like that was the intention, but I still give it a 5 out of 10. So overall, the Blue Box Rock score is 3.5 out of 10. I'm going to round up to 4, and that makes Orphan 55 the highest rated episode of Doctor Who that I've rated so far. So final thoughts. The Doctor Who part, I still love that. It's stupid, I know, but I love it every time that they do that. The writing in this episode, there were so many missed opportunities. You could say, okay, this was a bottle episode. It's obviously a bottle episode. What a bottle episode is an episode where they don't have a lot of budget, and so they have very limited sets. They don't go anywhere. They don't do an awful lot. There's usually just, there might be monsters, but they're shot cheaply. In this case, there's only one scene in which monsters and non-monsters, like humans or whatever passes for humans in the future, there's only one scene where they actually share screen time, and that's when the Doctor ends up trapping one of them. Looking back, and this is going back to the golden age of the second era, the 10th Doctor's episodes, Blink is the obvious example. Blink is a fantastic episode. It was a bottle episode. It was done very cheaply. They introduced a new bad guy, a new alien, in the form of the Angels, which are still coming back every once in a while, although not lately. But they were able to do a lot with very little due to excellent writing. You had a character that could have easily been a companion. That's Sally Sparrow in that case. Bella in this episode. The aliens, brand new aliens, brand new locale, done mostly on Earth. They could have done a lot with this episode. They could have, with some trickery, they could have retouched some set design in order to make it a really trash version of Earth and just, done something else. But they didn't. The other episode is Midnight. Midnight essentially takes place inside of an airplane. It's a space airplane, but almost the entire episode is in one little locale, and it's one of the best kind of overlooked episodes in modern times. I don't see it mentioned nearly enough, but Midnight is such a great episode and such a creepy episode, and the Doctor feels like in this case he's more in peril than he almost ever is, or they're almost whatever. Pronouns, I'm still getting used to them. I apologize. But anyhow, Midnight is just such a fantastic episode. This could have been half as good as Midnight, but it wasn't. And so, final questions. Is Orphan 55 worth watching at least once? If you like the 13th Doctor, yes. There's nothing completely off-putting about this episode. The writing isn't great, but it's not except for the Benny lady, there's nothing about this episode that I just can't stand. I do not fast forward this episode. I've watched it 3 times in preparation for this when my equipment was working. And I watched the entire episode each time. It's a decent episode. It's not fantastic. It's just kind of there. Is it a classic? No. Is it required viewing? No. And finally, question that I'm just going to throw out there as sort of a gimmick. Of anybody in this episode, who would I most want to share a beverage with? Who would I want to just, grab a beer with, hang out? Not date, not anything else. Just hang out with this person. And it'd be Hyphen. Hyphen's the only character in this entire episode, despite the fact that she's not very interesting. She's just there doing her job, and I respect that. I respect people who just go in, even when the job is kind of terrible. She's on this alien world that is, very dangerous outside of the resort, and she's just there happily, hi, I'm the resort person, blah, blah, blah. I respect that. And so, yes, Hyphen. Of all the characters in this episode, I would most want to grab a beer with Hyphen. So, Orphan 55 is about a 4 out of 10, or is it a 55 out of 100? Ha! No. I feel bad in a way for rating it so low, but breaking it down, I feel like it could have been better if any of those aspects had been better. I would have thrown a little bit more points at it, but as it is, I actually agree with the score, 4 out of 10. So thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with Space Pirates, or Pirates from Space, from the second Doctor's era during the classic era. So thanks again, and have a great day.